Welcome back to the Peacock podcast. This is episode 4. Anyone that's been listening to my previous ones, I would just want to say thanks. I appreciate that you're listening. We're going to jump right into games that I've been playing lately. And after that, I'm going to talk about channel plans. I'm going to talk about some of the attitude out there in media creation and my thoughts. Legacy games, Boardgame Burnout, and a realistic view of what I will get played versus just the idea of having it on my shelf. I'm going to talk about all of this and more this week on the Peacock podcast. So, without a further word of ado, let's start with this big, grandiose, beautiful game called The Edge, Dawnfall. This game is from Awakened Realms. And I remember I nearly backed this back when I first kickstarted Mythic Battles Pantheon. I was looking at this game and thinking, oh, it looks cool. Giant miniatures with their smaller armies. They had cool hex bases, and the players had a whole bunch of cards that they played that would give their different types of units certain powers. You could even flip the cards over to change their mode so that the stats changed. So the concept blew me away, and I did back it for a while, but I couldn't do both, this and Mythic Battles. I went with Mythic Battles, and I'm so glad I did, because even though all turned out great for The Edge Dawnfall, it was a super late project. It probably took like a couple years-ish, maybe a year, but I think it was super late. So these are my type of games. I mean, I went all in on Mythic Battles. A great, thinky skirmish game with a little bit of dice combat and a whole tactical side of playing cards at the right side and strategic positioning. I love those. And if I have an opponent that can give me their all, there's almost no better time at a game table for me. As much as I like to play just about anything, I particularly like these types of games. So I heard a lot of good buzz about this one after it delivered the backers, and I was like, oh, I don't need this game. I have Mythic Battles, but I'm having a hard time ignoring that voice in the back of my head. So I ordered this off of eBay. Well, actually, it was through the Geek Market on Boardgame Geek, actually, and it wouldn't have been so bad if it weren't for how bad my Canadian dollars are versus the euro, the American dollar, and the British pound for that matter. Well, there could be worse things going on than having a low dollar. Anyways, this thing was expensive, and it was more money than I should have paid. I did like the game after playing it a couple of times. This is a game where I need to play it like 5-6 times, start to get to know the different factions and really discover some strategies before I can really hammer down my true thoughts in this game, and there's campaigns that go along with it. So I guess with all this crazy preambling that didn't go anywhere, I'm trying to say that I liked it. The first impressions are good, but it didn't blow me out of the water first impressions. Like Mythic Battles delivered first play. If I had to get rid of one right now, I would toss The Edge without thinking about it. But there's something going on with this game, and I'm going to be talking about it more, and I'm going to be getting to know this game. What you do is you've got a selection of units. You can take any 5. You can take the big guy. You're basically leaving 1 or maybe 2 units back out of all those available. And there's 6 factions in this huge box, and every one has a nice little tray with a top half and a bottom half, and all your minis are there. You're picking 5 that you want to bring to the battle. And then you're going to go through this deck of about 70 cards, and you're going to take 25 of those, and they're going to correspond with the units that you've picked. And it's kind of like a trading card game, how you play like a fireball, but only like a certain kind of unit can cast that fireball. So unlike Mythic Battles or some of these skirmish games, instead of the powers being like on the card, their power is going to be the card you play from your hand, and I really, really like that. In fact, that's what makes me want to explore the game the most, because you can pick your strategy. You've got the units you bring, then you've got the cards you bring. And there's a top half of a card, so you can play it on any unit, and then there's the bottom cooler half of the card that's specific to that unit that's in your force for the game. I'm going to be talking about this one more in detail as I get to know it better, but that's my initial thoughts. Moving on, speaking of Mythic battles, I just played another 4-player game with this group down at the local comic store. This comic store is in Kamloops, and I'm in a little village about 45 minutes away, so I drive in. My brother lives in Kamloops, and a couple guys at the comic store we've been playing a lot of these more miniature-style games there. We drafted armies basically over Facebook Messenger. This was about a month before we actually played. We did the draft. I posted pictures of what everything was available, and we picked our forces. And then I spent the next few weeks painting everything that everyone drafted. And we got together. We played the Hera map. This got a big tree in the center. I was just reinforced by how much I love Mythic battles. Like, I love it now, more now than ever. It was the best time. And I won the first game, and I died the worst this game. I got destroyed. I mean, I ran out all cocky in the center. I was attacking everyone. My brother was over in the corner kind of looking for the fallout of what happened. He was plotting. He was making his plans. So was Randy over in the corner. He was this Landon, this snake that was very expensive to use, but when it did, it pretty much just attacked everything around it, and it was devastating. He pulled it off like 3 times in the game, and my brother ended up just eking out an Omphalos win, but it was close. Everyone had a great time, and we're going to do it again. We're going to do another draft, so it remains one of my most favorite games, and I'm going to put up some pictures here. You're probably looking at them now. I used the trees from A Song of Ice and Fire miniatures game, and man, it just looks beautiful with those trees. Speaking of Song of Ice and Fire, I've actually been getting into painting that. At said Mythic Battles game, I seen a guy walk in carrying the Stark versus Lannister starter set, and I was like, oh my god, it's nice seeing someone else with that in there. Someone else has this game other than me, so I'm like, hey, let me get your number because I'm dying to start playing more of this. It's such a good time. Like, it kills Rum and Bones. I don't want to get rid of Rum and Bones because there's still so much variety and it's still a good time. But mechanically and everything I'm getting out of it, like Song of Ice and Fire kills Rum and Bones. Metaphysically speaking, I'm not getting rid of it, but it's just got that same feel to me, you know? And I would rather play this one. And so with Song of Ice and Fire, I've been talking about it last week, and I don't want to spend too much time rehashing it. But I did put a review of this up on the Dice Tower, so I encourage you to go check out that review. Spoiler alert, I love the game, and I hope I showed how much I was enjoying playing this in my review. I will put a link of that in the description of this. Alright, so I've been playing a game that I really didn't have any excitement for. Even though I love viticulture, I love Scythe, and I just like another legacy game like CharterStone. I'm like, I bet it's fun, but I don't have that kind of time, man. You really have to invest yourself in a legacy game. I'm still not done Pandemic Legacy Season 1. So, I mean, and like I'm like just barely dipped my big toe into Gloomhaven. I've got all the plans in the world to finish Pandemic Legacy and Gloomhaven. I just can't keep, investing in new campaign games you have to commit to. It's just the way it is. There's only so much time in a day, and there's only so many of me. There's exactly one, in fact, and I ain't got time for all these different legacy games. But the thing is, I got a review copy of CharterStone. My son loves legacy games. Pandemic Legacy, he went nuts for the opening new cards and new powers and stuff like that. So he was very receptive to playing. So I'm like, Hayden, I gotta get this game reviewed. I need you to help me get played to the end of the campaign. And I didn't have to twist his arm. He's 9 years old. We're 5 games in, and I freaking love CharterStone, man. I love it. I should have known it would be good. So I've got a review coming on the Dice Tower. I already recorded my my opening and the mechanics of the game because I didn't want to spoil anything. I did that at the end of game 2. So I'm gonna play through the 12. come back, do a review. And I've also got the Rise of Fenris, which I committed to doing a review, so I'll have to play that as well. But it's not like doing homework because I'm just loving CharterStone. It's got that same zen feeling I get playing Viticulture. And sure, the first game is more of a tutorial of how the game goes and you're really just like pushing buttons, but that's fine. You know what I mean? But the upgrades you get, the bonus you get for losing a game, it's your simple Euro that's like converting one thing into another to do this, to do that, and trying to be the most efficient, but that's worker placement for you. But the way that the game is like slowly adding new rules is such a nominal pace that by the time you're at the end of it and there's 50 different things going on, it doesn't feel like a heavy game because you've had your handheld the whole time. And my son is playing like super competitive. Like he's got it grokked good. So I'm loving CharterStone. It's a legacy game, so I don't want to start talking about all different things by accidentally spoiling, but look for a review coming before the end of September on the Dice Tower, and I will be talking all about CharterStone. So moving on, let me first talk about The Resistance. This is one of the games I got when I was just getting into hobby board gaming. I've had it a couple of years now, and when I first got it, I was playing it all the time, but getting new games all the time, when you cross that plateau and there's always things coming in, then you just stop playing the classics you started with. And The Resistance was one of those. Like, I guess Shard of Nottingham and other games like that kind of took over. But I started playing Secret Hitler, and this kills The Resistance. It reminds me of how good of a time I had playing The Resistance. But boom! Secret Hitler, my favorite social deduction game. In fact, like right now, I don't see a need for any other one. I don't need to get excited about any more. I'll happily play Secret Hitler until I get to the point where I feel like, oh, I've had enough of this. But it's super fun. There's a few different things in The Resistance, but it's essentially the same thing. I like it better, and it's been a hit with our group of friends. So, we initially played a friend's copy, and my wife loved it. She's like, can we get Secret Hitler? And yeah, we've played it like maybe 4 times since with a group of people. Like, we've had like 10 people once. And I love social deduction games, and I keep buying them, but very rarely do I find they're a hit with our friends and stuff like that. They just haven't lived up to their potential. Like Secrets was kind of like everyone's like, oh, okay. That Crossfire one by Plaid Hat, I really had high hopes. Even Spyfall, it was hard to get those integrated into the group. But Secret Hitler just works, and I'm going to hold on to that because I love these types of games. Moving on, I started a campaign again of Arcadia Quest. This is with my son and his friend. So 3 of us playing. We introduced this to my son's friend there on the weekend, and we threw everything in. The pets, we threw in the riders, and we started playing the riders campaign. I wish I had my brother here to explain his thoughts, but he prefers the game without the riders. He feels they clunk up the game. It's too much. Maybe they're probably taken away from what made Arcadia Quest fun in the first place. And I can see that point with when you've got so many expansions, you've got the pets, you've got Inferno, new mechanics added, you've got dragons, and now you've got these riders, right, which is another thing. So my brother thought, they're just an unnecessary complication to the game. They clunked everything up. I felt that I'm really playing Arcadia Quest much more tactically now. With these riders being a huge character that you control, you have the ability now to put a rider up in front of a guy with range. You can start shooting monsters and not worry about them running up and getting a payback reaction on you because they can't go through your mount. 7/8 of the way through the game, this finally clicked for me, and I went, oh, I really like this now. I'll say that if you have Arcadia Quest, it's not a necessary expansion. But if you played Arcadia Quest a bunch, and I've been playing it since it first came out, maybe, 8 to 12 full campaigns through the game, and you're looking for new things, then I fully recommend the riders. The pets are great too. I would probably go with, if you had to get your first expansion for it, I would say go with either. They're both really cool, but the consensus is the pets is a must. They're cool, of course. It'd be weird playing without pets at this point. The riders, yeah, now that I'm using all 3 heroes more, I'm really focusing on where I'm putting that rider. I'm trying to pick off monsters with archers in behind. I rarely took weapons that had range because I didn't like the odds, but now I feel I'm going to be playing much more of a long game. So Riders has me excited. I think it's a good addition, and I can also understand that it could be an unnecessary complication, but I can deal with it just fine. And the last game I'm going to talk about was a hugely anticipated game everyone loved. Century Spice Road was the first one. I love the game. It's a hit with almost everyone I've played it with. I don't feel it's a Splendor killer. I happily have Splendor too. I like that one. Splendor's probably a little more accessible to show new people as well. But Eastern Wonders, I was jazzed for this, and I played one game of Eastern Wonders, and I'm like, yeah, I like this. It's a lot more plotting. It's way more thinky. It needs a few plays for sure before I compare it to Spice Road. Spice Road out of the gate is a much, it would be a much more popular game. So, and this one is, let me put it this way, if Spice Road wasn't deep enough for you, then this might be the sweet spot. So, for those heavier cardboard gamers here, and I've heard this criticism, like, yeah, like it's fun, it's just, not heavy enough for me. Eastern Wonders, I think, can keep the heaviest gamers' minds working 360 degrees for the whole game, and I like that. But I also played it with the mixture of Spice Road and Eastern Wonders, and right off the bat I was like, oh, I really like this. That first impressions, that might be my favorite of the 3 variants. I like that they've got the card comp, like the buying the cards from Eastern Wonders. Sorry, it's got the card play of Spice Road, and it's got the gathering of resources of Eastern Wonders, and also the card play. You can choose just to play cards to gather resources as well. So I think that's my favorite way to play so far. I will let you guys know what I think when I get to know them a bit more. That's games played. Let's jump into the channel and my plans and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, this is podcast number 4, so this is the fledgling stage. I want to get 10 of these done and, figure out and find my pace, and then maybe start finding a co-host or guest co-host and have someone else on to banter with. I know, personally, I prefer listening to podcasts where there's a discussion between people, although there are some that's just a one-man show that I enjoy as well. So if you're out there and you're listening and you might want to jump on here and talk board games with me, leave comments down below. So this is kind of going to segue into one of the things I want to talk about this week. So yeah, the channel plans are, I'm doing 1 or 2 of these a month right now. I'm really just not trying to burn myself out or overwork myself. I'm doing them at my own pace. When I feel that, I've played enough different things that I can talk about, I've got something to say, then I really start feeling motivated to make one, and that's kind of when I'm doing them. And I don't really see any reason to do more than that. I'm also doing reviews on the Dice Tower, and I've got a bunch of review copies that I'm committed to, and, I enjoy doing it. I'm not going to take any more review copies because I don't like having homework. I don't like being obligated. I would rather I think I'm in the same mindset as Joel Eddy from Jive Through Review. He's a reviewer that I like and respect, and you're not going to find a lot of bad reviews from him because it's hard to get motivated, find the time when you're already got a job and a life and this is a hobby, spend 10 hours on a game you hate, you know what I mean? So he's really, most of his reviews, or all of them, they're going to be favorable for that reason, and that's the same place I'm coming from. If you see a review from me, it's probably going to be a favorable review, but it's not always gonna be favorable, that's for sure. Especially, like, you can look at Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I mean, that was a review copy I got sent from Tom, and I was obligated to review it, and I hated it. I said the game sucked in my review, and people got really mad that I completely trashed games that other people genuinely liked. And I talked a bit about this last week, games that I'll spend money on that I'm excited about and I'm disappointed by. I can very easily be motivated to do those as well. But for the most part, the reviews are going to be positive, and they're coming out about at the same pace, 1 or 2 a month. I'm not putting pressure on myself. But yeah, this is something I enjoy doing. All my content is non-monetized. I'm not trying to make money. I can't ever see myself launching a Patreon and some other fundraiser. You know, this is a hobby for me. I enjoy talking about it. And if it ever changed, then, you know, I would be surprised. But I'm just looking to have an audience, to have people that are interested in what I'm saying, and to enjoy listening to it. Which brings me to a headline I read with the guy from Stand Up and Shut Down. And the video is about YouTube burnout and content creators trying, you know, they're working jobs, they're trying to live a family life, they're sacrificing sleep to make content for very little gain. You know, I don't see why they're working so hard and burning themselves out. You know, do you want to make a living doing this? Do you want to sacrifice all of that freedom of your life and commit to this channel that's taking so much out of you and giving you back very little? If it stops becoming fun, you know, it's a problem. So this YouTube burnout, I'm not saying that it's now a problem, but there's a new awareness coming out about it. And I'm a very, very, very minuscule minor league content creator. I don't make a living off the content I make, but I can certainly understand the work that goes into making it and to create some of these things that are out there, just even in our board game industry, would take a tremendous amount of work. And if you're not getting paid for it, you should not be doing it. But that's just my thoughts. What do you guys think? Do you think if you really want to make a living at it, I guess you really have to sacrifice all that until it becomes successful? But I mean, it's like becoming a movie star. The odds are so small. You really got to have something special to go for it. Just maybe start small until it turns into something. But I think the soon as you start having expectations of what you want to be, the sooner you're going to be disappointed and discouraged. So my channel is just taking it easy. I'm moving forward. I'm creating content. All I want is for people to enjoy what I'm making. And another thing I wanted to talk about is board game burnout and legacy games to a certain extent can contribute to that. And what I mean, and most of these discussion topics, by the way, I'm reading off, you know, forums or board game Facebook pages, that sort of thing. Some of these discussions have got me thinking, and I'm talking about them here. I've got games that are legacy games. Gloomhaven. Still not done Pandemic Legacy, and all the rules that have happened since the beginning over the first 8 games, you gotta get savvy with after playing, you know, like 3 months later. Seventh Continent's it's not a legacy game, but it's like a game you gotta keep playing. It's an investment in time. CharterStone, that's something I'm powering through. I'm getting to the end. I'm happy that it's a game I enjoy. And I've got Rise of Fenris. You know, I've got so many campaigns coming out of my ass. Never mind the odd game of Arcadia Quest I spark up. But, you know, Imperial Assault, Rise of Moloch, TMNT. God, I got so many of them. I got rid of Descent. But, yeah, there's just too many commitments to play these overarching stories, and there's not enough time to fully realize it. So I am full out now. So any future legacy games or campaign games, they're pretty much automatically ruled out because of, you know, everything else I got going. I need to just really flesh out these other stories before I start taking in new stories. And, you know, that leads into board game burnout. It's people are rabid about this hobby, and I'm rabid too. I'm right there with you. But, you know, you get to there's a, you know, you got your love affair stage where you just, everything is awesome. You just want so many games. You can't get enough of it. And then when you've got a couple hundred games, and other games are becoming more similar to other games you have, you're starting to look at games you can get rid of, you end up getting a lot more critical and more picky. And then you take that with all the Kickstarter action going on now. Kickstarter is a lot of like, look at my mini, look at this dungeon crawl, my minis are the coolest, and it's very easy to get fooled by a really good mini presentation. And I am immune to giving a shit about minis anymore. Like, I really don't. I want to get all of mine painted and just play all my minis games for the rest of my life and never get another one. That's not reality, because I'm me and I don't have that kind of willpower, but we're talking perfect world stuff here. But I'm interested in hearing your thoughts, your journey. Did you go from, buying up everything to being so critical and jaded that something really had to be special to, earn a place on your shelf, which also leads to, like, overall enthusiasm of the hobby, maybe going down a bit. I've had a friend who just lost all enthusiasm, and he just kind of traded board games in for video games. He had a fairly recent daughter and stuff like that, and he just wasn't getting the same rush of adrenaline from board games anymore. And I think there's going to be a bubble burst at some point. The industry is going to implode on itself, and from the ashes, it's going to be like, the best of the best kind of thing. This might take 5, 10, 20 years. I don't know, it might never happen, but that's definitely my thoughts. And they're my thoughts because that's where I'm getting at. I'm much less enthused about new games coming out, like all the Gen Con things. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I can wait 6 months until it's available. I'm not like, oh, I need to get it now. Which is funny I'm saying that because I went and paid crazy second market prices for the Edge Dawnfall. So what do I even know? Really, I want this to be a conversation, and I want to hear your thoughts on these, and maybe we'll keep the conversation going. And this is why I want to have some guests or a co-host on, so maybe we can have differing opinions and banter back and forth. But yeah, I'm not on full burnout. Some people are just like, yeah, I don't get excited about anything anymore. Can't play the games I already own. You know what I mean? When you have 200 games, and you just keep buying 2-3 games a week. I mean, really, are you collecting games or are you buying games to play and get to know? Meanwhile, there's also people that are really good at buying games, playing them. They don't love them, so they send them off, and they make, almost the same amount they paid for it back, which I think is the way to go. I don't know. I don't really have as good of a market where I live for unloading games. That's where I would love to be there, actually. I would like to go, play this 5 times, I'm done with it. It's still a pretty hot game. I can get back $50 out of the $60 I paid. Man, that's a win. And you're basically just mutating one game into the other. How many of you folks listening do this sort of thing? Tell me all about it in the comments below. So another thought I had is, and this is totally just pigeoning off previous couple of things we're talking about, is I'm, as a gamer, developing a more realistic view of what will actually get played versus the idea of getting it played that I have in my head. Because, I look at a game, I'm like, oh my god, get everyone at the table playing this. It's going to be the greatest. Problem is, a lot of the time, I don't get those people at the table to play this game or to realize this idea. Personally, I'm like, oh, that game looks wicked, but my wife's gonna hate that. My son's not into that sort of thing. My game group's in the Euros. My brother's in the minis games, so there's gonna be gray areas where I'm gonna just start saying, I can live without this game. First world problems, right? Anyways, I think this is where I'm gonna wrap things up. Thanks so much for listening, watching. Really appreciate it. I want to hear those thoughts of yours. Give me a like if you like what I'm doing. Subscribe. Makes me feel good to see that subscriber count go up. And I'll catch you next time. Check me out on Twitter at JaspyLodem. You can see that up on screen right now. That's at JaspyLodem. Same with Instagram. I'm thinking I'm going more away from Twitter and more into Instagram, actually. And, yeah, that's it. I'm leaving you right here, right now. Love ya. Mwah. Catch you next time.